Welcome to AeroDisasterFiles, broadcasting today from Teneriffe Airport, the site of one of the deadliest aviation disasters in history. As we stand here amidst the serene backdrop that once witnessed such tragic turmoil, we can still sense the palpable tension in the air that fateful day. The usual tranquility of this picturesque setting was shattered by the events that unfolded, leaving an indelible mark on the aviation community, with the distant hum of jet engines serving as a somber reminder. We delve into the Teneriffe Airport disaster, exploring every angle and honoring the memories of those impacted. Join us as we revisit the catastrophic day, exploring the facts, stories, and lessons learned, all from the very runway where two jumbo jets once tragically collided. March 27, 1977 began as a foggy day at Los Rodeos Airport, Tenerife. Nestled on the volcanic island, the largest of Spain's Canary Islands, Tenerife is typically bathed in sunshine, surrounded by the blue waters of the Atlantic Ocean. However, on this particular day, the island was cloaked in an unusual dense fog, reducing visibility significantly. Los Rodeos Airport, known for its smaller size and less frequent international traffic, found itself unexpectedly bustling. A terrorist bombing at Gran Canaria Airport had rerouted numerous flights to Tenerife, including several international jumbo jets. The airport, unaccustomed to handling such a high volume of large aircraft, quickly became congested. Taxiways were cramped, and the parking areas overflowed with planes. This sudden influx transformed a typically quiet airport into a hub of hurried activity, setting a precarious stage. The fog that enveloped the runway and taxi areas only added to the growing tension among the crews and air traffic controllers. With the stage set, let's look at how two Boeing 747s ended up on a collision course. On this congested runway, two jumbo jets, KLM Flight 4805 and Pan Am Flight 1736, found themselves entangled in a deadly misunderstanding. Tenerife North Airport on that fateful day in March 1977 was blanketed in a dense fog, reducing visibility to less than 300 meters. The airport, not usually accustomed to handling such a high volume of traffic, became an unwilling stage for one of aviation's darkest moments. The story begins with a bomb threat at Gran Canaria Airport, diverting several flights to Tenerife, including the ill-fated KLM and Pan Am aircraft. The airport's limited taxiways were overwhelmed. This unusual congestion was a critical factor, as both planes ended up on the same runway. As visibility dropped, the communication between the cockpit crews and the control tower became strained. The KLM flight, preparing for takeoff, received ambiguous clearance from air traffic control. At the same time, the Pan Am flight was instructed to taxi on the same runway, exiting via the third taxiway to clear the path. Here, in the thick fog, a crucial miscommunication occurred. The KLM captain, perhaps misunderstanding the control tower, or perhaps too eager to depart before the fog worsened, initiated takeoff without explicit clearance, while the Pan Am jet was still on the runway. Meanwhile, the Pan Am pilots, struggling to locate the third taxiway in the poor visibility, remained on the runway longer than expected. It was during these tense moments that the KLM jet, accelerating down the runway, loomed out of the fog. The Pan Am pilots, upon seeing the KLM aircraft approaching, attempted an evasive maneuver, steering their plane towards the grass to avoid a collision. Simultaneously, the KLM pilot, finally realizing the impending disaster, desperately tried to lift his aircraft off the ground. Despite their efforts, the inevitable occurred. The lower fuselage of the KLM jet collided with the upper fuselage of the Pan Am plane. The impact was catastrophic, leading to one of the deadliest accidents in aviation history. In mere moments, confusion led to catastrophe. The collision was devastating. On that fateful day in Tenerife, two jumbo jets, giants of the sky, met in a catastrophic embrace. The impact was immediate and explosive, a fiery chaos that billowed into the sky, visible for miles around. In moments, the serene airport was transformed into a nightmarish inferno. Fuel from the ruptured tanks ignited, engulfing the aircraft in flames. The heat was so intense that it melted the very structure of the planes, creating a hellish scene difficult for even the most seasoned rescue workers to approach. Emergency services sprang into action with a speed and urgency that matched the scale of the disaster. Firefighters already on standby rushed towards the flames, their hoses unleashing torrents of water and foam in an attempt to quench the fire that consumed metal and flesh alike. Ambulances screamed across the tarmac, medics ready to provide immediate aid. Amidst this chaos, incredible stories of human courage and quick thinking emerged. Some passengers and crew, despite their own injuries and shock, fought bravely to free themselves and others from the wreckage. They broke windows, tore away at obstructions, and guided the wounded towards safety, their actions undoubtedly saving lives that might have otherwise been lost. As the flames continued to rage and smoke filled the air, the grim reality set in. The disaster was not just a tragedy for those directly involved, but a moment that shook the entire world of aviation. As rescue operations continued, the aviation world was left reeling. In the aftermath of any disaster, the search for answers begins. The catastrophic collision on the foggy runway of Teneriffe not only left an indelible mark on history, but also prompted an exhaustive investigation by aviation authorities. The focus was clear: to understand the sequence of events and the underlying causes that led to the deadliest accident in aviation history. Investigators discovered that critical communication failures played a central role. The tower's instructions, clouded by non-standard phraseology and an unfortunate overlap of radio transmissions, led to fatal misunderstandings between the two Boeing 747 aircraft. This revelation highlighted the urgent need for standardized communication protocols in aviation. Further scrutiny revealed significant procedural lapses. The airport's dense fog and the lack of ground radar at the time compounded these issues, making it extremely challenging for pilots to navigate the busy runways. The investigation concluded that clearer guidelines were necessary for operations in limited visibility conditions. In response to these findings, sweeping changes were implemented worldwide. The introduction of the standardized phraseology for radio communication, known as Aviation English, was a direct outcome. Additionally, more rigorous procedures were established for aircraft taxiing and runway usage during low visibility conditions. The implementation of these measures has had a profound impact on enhancing flight safety. The introduction of the Traffic Collision Avoidance System, TCAS, and improvements in ground radar technology are just a few examples of how the tragedy has spurred innovation and tightened safety protocols. The lessons from Teneriffe have reshaped aviation safety standards, ensuring that the skies are safer for future generations. The Teneriffe airport disaster remains a poignant chapter in aviation history. This tragedy, where two jumbo jets collided on a foggy runway, not only marked one of the darkest days for aviation, but also became a catalyst for transformative changes across the industry. In the wake of the disaster, sweeping reforms were implemented to enhance safety protocols, reshape pilot training, and refine international aviation regulations. One of the most significant changes was the introduction of standardized phraseology in air traffic communication. This move aimed to eliminate ambiguity and prevent misunderstandings like those that contributed to the disaster at Teneriffe. Furthermore, cockpit procedures were overhauled with the introduction of Crew Resource Management, or CRM, which emphasized better communication, decision-making, and teamwork among flight crews. Beyond procedural and regulatory reforms, the Teneriffe disaster profoundly impacted airport operations worldwide. Airports increased their focus on improving runway safety and enhancing navigational aids to prevent similar incidents. The lessons learned have echoed through the corridors of airports globally, reminding us of the need for constant vigilance and improvement. In remembrance of those who lost their lives, memorials have been erected and their stories are shared in training programs and safety seminars, serving as a somber reminder of the past and an educational tool for the future. These efforts ensure that the legacy of the victims continues to influence and inform the aviation community. Though the scars remain, the legacy of those lost has led to a safer sky for all who travel it today. Today we've revisited one of the darkest days in aviation history, not to dwell on the tragedy, but to understand and remember. As we conclude this deep dive into the Teneriffe Air Disaster, let's briefly recap the key points that have shaped this narrative. On that fateful day in 1977, a series of miscommunications and unfortunate events led to the deadliest aviation accident in history. Two jumbo jets collided on the runway in a catastrophic explosion that claimed 583 lives. From this tragedy, crucial lessons were learned. The disaster became a turning point in aviation safety protocols, emphasizing the necessity of clear communication and stringent adherence to procedures. The introduction of standardized phrases in air traffic control communications, known as aviation English, was a direct outcome, aimed at preventing such misunderstandings in the future. The legacy of Teneriffe is a somber reminder of the responsibilities that lie in the hands of those who manage and navigate our skies. It's a poignant example of how vital stringent safety measures and clear protocols are to preventing future tragedies. Reflecting on this story is crucial, not just for those directly involved in aviation, but for anyone who steps foot on an aircraft. The lessons of Teneriffe have shaped many safety protocols that today make air travel one of the safest modes of transportation. As we continue to advance in technology and grow in our understanding, let us keep the memory of those lost in Teneriffe as a beacon guiding our efforts towards safer skies. Let their memory drive us to keep asking questions, to keep learning, and to never grow complacent with the status quo. If you found this analysis insightful, please like, subscribe, and share AeroDisasterFiles. Join us next time as we continue to explore and learn from the annals of aviation history.